Hi, I'm AJ. Now I'm going to guide you through your end breath. The end breath is a component of the breathography breath cycle that is not used within every breathography breath cycle. It is used strategically at the conclusion of certain exercises to increase your lung capacity and also to integrate and include your released inhale, your released inhalation into your exercise routine. Now, the released breath, a released inhalation, has a time and a place and is very important during your own 24-hour cycle, your day cycle, right? I mostly lean into the engaged inhale, the engaged inhalation, because that engaged inhale is part of your bracing mechanism for exercise. But there are certain moments within the pre-bed mobility routines, those mobility routines where we perform a breathography and we put some released inhales in, where we release the pelvic floor, we release the abdominal wall. Our pre-postnatal videos, exercises where you are going to integrate, again, an engaged inhale and a released inhale, because it is important to be able to hold those muscles to be used when there's extra resistance or load on the body. So you're using it as a bracing mechanism to prevent injury in your lower back and your pelvis, and also to strengthen your pelvic floor and all those muscles that gravity's working against all the time. But it's also really important to be able to release those muscles as well, to be able to release the abdominals, tighten the ab ribbon around your waist, or the imaginary ribbon, right? Tighten the ribbon, right? And really release, really, you're not pushing out into the ribbon, but you're just releasing those abdominals as you release, right? So the end breath is a combination of an engaged inhale and a released inhale. Typically, we perform engaged inhale 2 times, 2 sniffs, just like you do in your engaged inhale as part of the 3 primary components of your breath cycle. And then we perform either 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 released inhales. In general, we'll either perform the engaged inhales and 2 released inhales, and the engaged exhales and 3 released inhales. Let's practice both today so that you have a sense of what that feels like and the differentiation between an engaged inhale and a released inhale, okay? Let's slowly go through our zip-up activation, our engaged inhale, and our 8-second exhale. We'll follow that with the 2-beat breath retention, as in this stage of our lessons on breathography, you've already learned your breath retention. So I want you to start implementing that into many of your breathography breath cycles. A 2-beat breath retention is still at the beginner intermediate level. So let's incorporate that 2-beat breath retention. At the conclusion of your 2-beat breath retention, I want you to take a 2-2 end breath. If I say you're going to perform a breathography, in your breath retention formula is, 2, 2, 2, with a 2-2 end breath, all 2s to make it simple right now. A 2-2 end breath is 2 engaged inhales and 2 released inhales. If I say you're going to complete your breath cycle with a 2-3 end breath, that's 2 engaged inhales and 3 released inhales. So let me just demonstrate really fast. If I'm performing 2 engaged inhales and 2 released inhales, I'm super engaged. Now you have a familiarity with what an engaged inhale is. 1, 2. Released inhale, I'm just releasing my pelvic floor, my abdominals. I'm not pushing out, but I'm just releasing those for 1, 2, 3. And release. This is such a wonderful way to work on lung capacity. We've talked about why lung capacity is so amazing, but you're really stretching your lungs, you're pushing in, and most importantly, you're sinking your pelvic floor release. Your diaphragm is pushing down in conjunction with your pelvic floor, which is really how it works in tandem throughout the day. That diaphragm pushes down as your pelvic floor drops. And so this allows you to differentiate and strengthen that deep inhalation and strengthen the diaphragm in both the engaged world, where you're engaged in the pelvic floor, and that is strategic for not getting injured during exercise, but then also performing it as a released inhale, which throughout the day you should be able to do, and that will help prevent issues with your pelvic floor, because you don't want to be hypercontracted in your pelvic floor all the time. We use that contraction of the pelvic floor within our workouts as a mechanism to strengthen the pelvic floor and also to use for stability while we push and pull and squat and lunge, okay? So it's important that I express to you the importance of being able to release the pelvic floor and the abdominals with an inhale, and also perform that engaged inhale, which now you know that means keeping the pelvic floor and all of the zip-up activation muscles engaged so that you're directing that breath into the ribs, okay? So very, very different scenario. Now, if I say, and your end breath at the conclusion of this breath cycle is 2-2. That means 2 engaged inhales and 2 released inhales. So let's push ourselves back against the wall. Let's go through our breathography breath cycle with a breath retention formula of 2-0-2. I know we're really working the brain here. You guys know how heavy I am on cognition work within the workout. 2-0-2, so that's 3 breathography breath cycles in a row with a 2-beat breath retention. Second set has a 0, no breath retention, and third has a 2-beat breath retention with a 2-2 end breath. That's 2 engaged inhales and 2 released inhales, okay? So let's just get right into it, and I want you to keep repeating this video until you nail this, right, before you move on to the next. All right, so again, your breath retention formula is 2-0-2 with a 2-2 end breath. Zip up, inhale, hiss, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, inhale 1, inhale 2, blow. Hold the breath for 2. Inhale 1, 2, blow. No breath hold, engaged inhale 1, 2, blow. Hold the breath for 2, 1, 2-2 end breath, 2 engaged, 1, 2, released, 2, and release. So I'm sure that you can see also from the side, right? You can see my 2 engaged inhales. I'm staying very engaged. The ribbon is loose, but it starts to tighten as I take those first 2 engaged inhales. And then the released inhales, I'm really just releasing the abdominals all the way around that whole circumference of the abdominal wall, and also releasing the pelvic floor, okay? Now, let's practice that once in sumo squat so that we can apply it to a functional movement one time. Your breath retention formula for this one is 2-2. So that means we only have 2 sets of the breath cycle. If I only say 2-2, right? Both 8-second exhalations will have a 2-beat breath hold with a 2-2 end breath. So easy to remember, but right after that second breath cycle with the 2-beat breath hold, we're doing 2 engaged inhales and 2 released inhales. That's our 2-2 end breath. Okay, so let's practice. Put the hands behind the head for head posture. Begin with the zip up. Inhale, hiss. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Inhale 1, inhale 2, and blow. Hold the breath for 2, 1, 2, double engaged inhale 1, 2, blow. Blow the air out. Hold the breath for 2, 1, 2, 2-2 end breath. Engaged inhales 1, 2, released, 2, and finish. Now, there are some workouts where I add a 2-3 end breath at the end with these functional movements, and that simply means perform 2 engaged inhales and 3 released inhales. That happens in some of the more advanced workouts, so we will not practice this here today. I want you to continue reviewing this video, practicing against the wall and also in your sumo squat position until you have a high level of comfort in combining your zip-up activation, your engaged inhale, your engaged exhale, light breath retentions, and ending that with your 2-2 end breath. Keep practicing that, and then meet me at the next lesson.